Hey everybody, good morning. Good morning. Happy Monday morning. And it's cold outside. Oh my God. It was warm a couple of days ago when the tornado came through and now it's cold. So yeah, I don't know if you just saw my recent timeline that I saw my Facebook memories that comes up and my dog 2 years ago, or actually 3 years ago, right around when I first adopted her or received her as a gift that somebody else adopted for me in our name. Well, she was high anxiety. She would take tennis balls and destroy them. She would actually my dog used to take tennis balls. That's why I have so many of them because that's what I thought I used to, want to keep her occupied. But she used to take tennis ball and just or any kind of ball that was her own and she would just pick apart little pieces and then throw them on the floor, pick them apart and totally destroy it. So if you look at my timeline, go look at that video of my dog Sugar destroying a tennis ball. And I was afraid to take the ball from her, thinking now she's going to destroy my hand. But no, that was her way of relieving stress. So when dogs chew so much, it's because they're highly stressed. Well, now, my dog's on J juice and she gets it in her kibble. She has plenty of water. I don't take her on a lot of walks, but take her on a few. I don't want to go too far because this neighborhood is still kind of sketchy and I don't want any pit bulls, out there that are running loose. So I sort of keep things close to the seam here. But yeah, I mean, she is very calm. She has a billion tennis balls that she'll chew for a minute, just scrunch on it, and then she'll chew on her bone, like her nyla bone, and she'll chew on some of the marrow bones that I gave her. But she doesn't chew and destroy tennis balls. So that's huge. I changed my dog's biochemistry simply by giving her the right elements. And she still gets her regular kibble too, because it wouldn't make sense. She wouldn't eat just my juice. She could potentially actually eat my diet with my juice and she would be fine, but it's expensive to feed a dog people food. So I'd rather just give her some kibble and then mix it with the juice and then with water, and she is a-okay. Okay, she's great. So anyways, I also, when I wake up in the morning, I look at my email and I see all these different Facebook mentions with Jilly Juice, and most of them actually, they're all like tweeters. So I do have a tweet account that I don't have any activity except for me. I don't post any tweets. I think Lillian created a Jilly Juice tweet account that I don't really ever mention or deal with. But I use my tweet account to just respond to tweeters that don't know what the hell they're talking about. So yeah, so there's some tweeters out there just any updates on the Federal Trade Commission or anything else as far as Jilly Juice. And no, the Federal Trade Commission only deals with advertising. As long as you are within the guidelines of advertising, they're not going to mess with you. Okay? It's all about words. Words create worlds. This is what people need to now finally focus on is words and their meanings. Because words can make you or break you. It can be vague, it can be specific, it can condemn you, it can vindicate you. And this is why yesterday when Kevin and I were kind of arguing back and forth as far as the meaning of words, as far as what this word actually means, it's because we both know that words are powerful. They can create a whole world of meaning that could completely misinform and misdirect somebody if that was the intention. Okay? And words can also get you on the straight and narrow. Words can open up a whole new world that you never ever even thought of. And so how you use words is huge. And this is where I was really what I've been starting to focus on is how the media, how the health and wellness community uses words to then create a specific perception. Okay? And this is why the Federal Trade Commission has to then get in line to make sure and be that balancing force that someone doesn't use words to misinform, mislead, even though I may have a belief system, okay? And even though I may claim that I substantiate it through academia and PubMed, somebody out there who may totally not understand words, may totally not read anything, but will just believe like 2 or 3 minute, 1 second sound bites, or read a group of words put together very, very, I would say, strategically, and then they would believe it. So right now, the word cure is being used a lot in the health and wellness. But what does that mean? When there is no cure, when someone says that there is no cure, and then they have all these cures that you see on TV, or someone claims that they cured some child from autism, and why it is you can't say this, because there are specific processes that are involved to where you are allowed to use the word cure. And believe me, nobody in the J juice world does not want to match cure with Jilly juice. You do not want to be describing Jilly juice as a cure, because cures are not even temporary, they're antibiotic. They have to go through an FDA process to make sure that the poisons that they're using, because cures are poisons that are used to manipulate your immune system and your hormones and your cancer cells. Okay, so you never want to use the word cure as a way to describe Jilly juice. Okay, you got to find a different word to describe Jilly juice that isn't at all reflective of the allopathic holistic market. This is why it's so important to understand the power of words. Okay, and this is why when I look at the word energy, what does energy mean? And this is where, this is where Kevin and I were arguing yesterday, because we know that energy, the word energy, is used in different contexts. And it may mean different things to different people. And if you don't use that word energy in the right context and explain what it means to you in the context that you are explaining it in, it would serve to confuse someone. So it's so important that when you use words, you explain your intent, the context by which you're using it, so you're not to just to distract and confuse somebody. Okay. So when I look at the word hormones, okay, hormones is a description of all the different processes in your body. Now, I could say, oh, you know what? Everything in your body is a hormone. Everything. I could say that. And I have said it. And I do stand by it, because everything in your body is a hormone. And there are certain things in your body that will manipulate your hormones. Now, I can go into those details and say, okay, well, for this hormone, which I have to do when it comes to the 3 things that could potentially kill you and keep you alive. But it's easier to say, okay, this is a hormone, this is a hormone, this is a hormone, this is a hormone. This type of energy is based upon how this hormone gets elicited. Okay, well, what are the things that make this hormone do this, this, and that? I mean, it gets to be, as you can see, rather wordy and very confusing when you have to explain the full mechanism of why this hormone would behave in this specific way. So it's just easier to say, okay, well, this specific behavior is based upon a hormonal response that is triggered by sugar, that is triggered by cancer, triggered by antibiotics that then create antibodies to then trigger this hormone to, so it does get rather cumbersome to try to explain a very easy concept, and how do you explain a concept in like 5 or 6 words or less? When you start getting into such details, it can get lost in the translation. So this is why when I talk about energy, and people talk about like energy healing, hormone healing, how do you heal your hormones? I mean, blocked energy, blocked hormones. I mean, could we use the word energy to describe just the action? But that's kind of, energy and hormones the same thing. The hormones are there, but they get triggered to do specific things. So it's an action just like energy. So that's how it becomes really, really difficult to try to explain something using a word that could be used in so many different contexts. You really have to explain the context. And that's hard for those that are young. Okay, when someone's young and they're a waitress in Rhode Island tweeting about Jilly Juice and the FTC, I'm thinking like, oh man, this young mentality probably this information right now, what I'm talking about, would go right over her head. No wonder she's wondering if I'm killing people, because she doesn't understand that in the context of Jilly Juice, salt, and when someone has and experiences a symptom, a healing symptom, such as pain, she doesn't get that the prostaglandin hormone is supposed to be triggered to elicit pain to aid in the healing process. How do you explain that to a waitress in Rhode Island who's probably 20-something years old, who probably takes a bunch of drugs and does whatever to mitigate pain because that's all she's ever been taught? See, this is what I'm up against, is the fact that, yes, we have a hugely ignorant society, for one, but number two, society that doesn't have any kind of incentive to do any research other than the 2-minute sound bites. So it's like, and I'm not like upset about it, but this is what we're up against. So this is why it's so imperative that there's a way that you can make sure that you put out the context, instead of putting out 2-second sound bites to people that all they do is listen to sound bites. They don't look deeper than the word, that you really learn how to explain what Jilly Juice does. And it doesn't have to be lengthy. It doesn't have to be pages and pages and pages. I mean, pain, the prostaglandin hormone is being brought to surface. It's being secreted because what's what aids in the healing process. Why is it that we're trying to mitigate pain out there? Because we don't understand that pain is healing. So we're using anti-inflammatories to stop the healing process, which then translates into aging, cancer, disease, and chronic illness and mutations. Okay. But that's something that I know because I've been doing this for such a long time. Those of you that are just new starting this, you know, it's probably difficult for you to even try to like explain how you even feel at this moment, much less try to explain the mechanisms behind Jilly Juice. But it might as well practice. You got nothing else really to do except what? Be an activist in Loop, or I don't know, do your responsibilities. Okay, but once your responsibilities are done and now you're left with extracurricular time, what do you use your time with? You learn how to explain the science behind why you're doing Jilly Juice so people understand, or you go back to your activism and completely not give Jilly Juice any thought and help the people around you understand that this is revolutionary for you and your family and for the rest of the world. Okay, so yeah, I mean, we do put our money where our mouth is. So anyways, so yeah, in the beginning, when I first created this protocol, I knew that exercise was something that was hugely bad, okay? Because I was watching people in my world go from one addiction to another, turn to exercise, and then they're seeing their body break down. And then I'm seeing all of these, you know, their body's breaking down, the aging in their face, and then autoimmune disorders and things get triggered because, yes, when you are creating so many hormones because you're putting your body under stress, such as exercise or weightlifting too, without repairing the damage, you're seeing bodies completely, like you're looking at Jack LaLanne, they die. Okay, well, you can say, well, correlation doesn't mean causation. Okay, well, now I actually have from PubMed, under a sports medicine doctor, okay, actually explain the hormonal responses when you exercise. So watch all your exercise gurus are all about getting the six-pack, getting like the pretty legs and a beautiful body. Guess what? Just so you know, I have a great looking body, ask my husband, and I don't need to exercise a lick. I don't need to develop any six-pack. I don't need to develop and cultivate muscles. I don't even need to do meditation or yoga or sauna, because that's all induces stressful hormonal responses because you're putting your body through duress. It's torture to your body. Exercise is torture to your body. So I know that when I did post this, Krista McGinn was like, finally. And I'm like, you know what? I'm right with you, girl. Finally. I'm right with you. Because I knew intuitively that exercise was bad, and I knew that it caused stress on the body. But as far as the science, I even had the science, so to speak, because it is a type of hormone, endorphin, that people get addicted to. But that's still kind of like, ooh, theoretical. Okay, why is that not working? All right, here we go. Okay, stress hormones and the immunological response to heat and exercise. See, this couldn't come from at a perfect time. So just so you know, when you go use a heating pad, it's not healing. You're just causing hormones to give you that feeling of pleasure, the relief. When you take a hot shower, it's the same thing. Okay. Not saying that taking a cold shower is any better, because that also releases excess hormones because your body's under stress, under duress. So, hey, guess what? There's a middle ground somewhere. It's called warm water. Woo, what a concept. Middle balance. Okay. So anyone that does hot saunas, hot yogas, or even yoga can be like really detrimental to the body as well. Now, I get people need to do some things therapeutically, but remember, therapy is something that messes with your system. You really got to do J-juice. So this is the abstract. So stress hormones and the immunological response to heat and exercise. This review focuses on the response of stress hormones to heat exercise, single or repeated bouts, and combinations of these stimuli with particular reference to their impact upon the immune function. Very hot conditions induce a typical stress response with secretions of catecholamines and cortisol. The catecholamines induce a demargination of leukocytes, and cortisol subsequently causes cells to migrate to lymphoid tissues. Sustained exercise, even in a thermally comfortable environment, induces a larger hormonal response than moderate thermal stress. With moderate exercise, increase in leukocyte numbers are related mainly to plasma norepinephrine concentrations. But with more intense exercise, epinephrine concentrations assume a major importance, which means that's an addiction. As exercise continues, plasma cortisol levels also rise, inducing an influx of neutrophils from bone marrows and an efflux of other leukocyte subsets, which means that antibodies are now being created. A combination of exercise and heat stress augments both hormonal and leukocyte responses, but these changes seem to be reversed if temperatures are clamped by exercising in cold weather. If a second bout of exercise is performed with an inter-test interval of 30 to 45 minutes, neither hormone concentrations nor immune responses show any great cumulative effect under temperature conditions. However, in a hot environment, the exercise bout induces a larger and more persistent neutrophilia. Training influences those various responses mainly by decreasing the stress imposed, even exercise at a given absolute work rate. So basically, they're saying to kind of help you a little bit if you're going to have to do exercise, which you really shouldn't, unless you're just doing an activity like hiking with your friends or kayaking or something. Do it in cold weather. But those of you that live in hot climates all year round, I guess go find an air-conditioned place to go do your running if you have to. But you know what? No matter what, no matter if you even try to augment your environment to not make it so hot, there's no sense in doing exercise unless you're addicted to the hormones or unless you feel like you need to look good for this female. Because it's going to age you, it's going to degrade you, and guess what? You're going to see more of an accumulation of antibodies that will eventually agglutinate and then will tear your body down. So those of you that are doing triathlons and biathlons and doing all these, crazy type of weightlifting because you want to look cute for the girl or the guy, well, I'm going to tell you, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. And, maybe you go win your award, you do whatever you got to do during this time. And then guess what? Take a couple of years off, find a different profession or a different extracurricular activity and heal from that torture. And I remember when I was 19, when I was in junior high trying to do the mile. I think my best mile was like 8 minutes, but I hated running. And I did play soccer, but I hated being the forward or the halfback because that's a lot of running. So I was fullback and I was goalie. That was what I found a way to enjoy sport without killing myself. Though, I mean, yeah, when you're always if you have a very very weak team, then the ball is always in your side of the town. So it's just like, it's crazy. But no, I never, I mean, I think I did do the running for about maybe 2004. I was in China running up and down the steps because I was sick. And I came to Sacramento and no, I went to China and then I went to Hawaii. I was in China, then I was in China for 3 weeks and I went to Hawaii. And that's when I was running all the way, and I was running all the time in Hawaii. And then I would reward myself with a Starbucks coffee. And I was the fit I was ever, I mean, I was skinny. I mean, there's some pictures of me when I was skinny because I was working out, but I was destroying myself. And then I think I was running in Sacramento, and in Sacramento in the summertime, it's like 100, dry heat. I mean, I really was getting those endorphins, the hormonal responses. And then I think I got caught up in work. So I stopped doing that. And so, yeah, but then I stopped running. And then what happened was, yes, and I started working on my career and everything else and getting my licenses for insurance. And then life just kind of took over, and then aging happens. And so all of those abuses that I did to my body caught up to me. And then when I got married and things got comfortable, and we were on the truck for like 6 months, living out of the truck stops, going from load to load to load, eating out of canned foods like Chef Boyardee. I didn't even heat those up. Yeah, that does a number to your body. So I had a lot to reverse when I got on Jilly Juice. Okay, so really, truly, you know, massage and exercise, anything in the sports medicine world where you have to be therapeutic and doing all this stuff, really, you know, if you have to, fine, but do J Juice. Really, seriously, do Jilly Juice, because not only are you going to be inducing pain, but you also will be healing your body without having to lift a finger except to wipe yourself after a waterfall. Okay? This is probably the best, I would say, protocol that you'll ever have to do, as long as you schedule your waterfalls, you know, timely and schedule them accordingly based upon your lifestyle. And yeah, you're already, you know, most of you are already in pain. Okay. So inducing the prostaglandin hormone to actually work the way it's supposed to is really going to be not that different than what you've already been doing. I mean, right now, all the different antibiotics and cures that are out there, they only last so long. The reason why, because the body adapts. The body adapts to poisonous conditions, and then guess what? The body wants to heal again. So that's why you're in pain again. You can't prevent healing if you truly want to live, which is pain, and you can't prevent pathogens. So let's not live this preventative lifestyle if you truly want to be healthy. Let's live about promoting strategic nutrition, and there's nothing out there in the allopathic holistic market that will ever come close to Jilly Juice and the protocol and how you take the protocol and what the specific healing symptoms means. There is nothing. I've actually cornered that market. And it's not because I'm like a Bill Gates monopoly, no, it's the fact that nobody is understanding what hormones are good and what hormones need to, to either be brought forth or not inhibited, but what need to be kept at bay. The reason why that we have reproduction is from mutation. So guess what hormones are most present? The oxytocin hormone, the adrenaline hormone, all the stress hormones when the body's in duress is the most prevalent and is used in therapeutic methods in the allopathic holistic world. So they're using stress, death trajectory hormones to manage your cancer, disease, and chronic illness. Shouldn't that kind of scare the shit out of you once you realize what oxytocin is? Yes, it builds relationships between you and your significant other or your child, because yeah, you're bearing a child, you're getting married and having sex because your body is on a death trajectory and it needs to carry the species forward so it doesn't induce extinction or trigger extinction. Not that it's going to happen. We have 7 billion people who are mutated having 50 million kids, But the life cycle of these children, every generation compounding the mutations, is going to be shorter and shorter. And hey, you know, the next 100, 200 years, we're going to see a drop in population. Oh, yeah. So this is why it's incumbent upon all of you that know about Jelly Juice, stay on it. Okay, I mean, they're talking about, oh yeah, the GMOs and all these things are going to induce infertility. You know, what induces infertility? Being very well or being very mutated. So this is how the system can kind of get away with with kind of like substantiating that, because yes, if you have an attack on your reproductive system like mutations, yeah, it can induce infertility. But let's say you're doing J juice and you're feeling great, you don't feel like you need to induce hormones because you're in a stressful situation, you're not going to want to have sex, maybe you're not going to want to have children because you'll be too busy living an amazing life, not wanting to nest and procreate. So guess what? That's kind of an infertility in of itself, but it's an infertility because it's based on biochemistry, not because somebody else came in there and intercepted and said, hey, we're going to sterilize you. No, but this is what they're saying out there. This is how they're getting people, all crazy on the bandwagon against GMOs because they say, oh yeah, it's causing infertility. It's going to cause the decline. You look at the Georgia Guidestones. Now I'm looking at the Georgia Guidestones from an awesome point of view. It's true. We are going to probably see a decline in population because we have so many mutated people who stick their heads in the sand, who don't want to understand their body. And so they think that well, I don't know what they think. They think a lot of things. They think that using cures out there and negative elements are going to help them. And they think that dying's okay. If you think that death is okay, then you are projecting shorter lifespans for the future generations. Because death only happens when people are violating the laws. And so this is why I've got into the law so much. And this is why it's interesting because, I was raised in a household that's biotech and my mother went to law school. She's a JD. So not that I like study the law, but it's like my mother comes from a very kind of a lawyeristic, very legalistic in a lot of ways mentality. And so this is, and not to say that this is what prompted me to go in this direction of using law, but it makes sense. Law and order, okay, even though she may not be adhering to the laws of her body because she's aging, but she understands the laws in our community. She understands the laws in a lot of ways and with her profession as being a psychotherapist. But now it's time to translate the laws and not just areas of which there is a practice in, like litigation and corporate law and defense and criminal. No, now there's laws of the body that have to be understood and adhered to. And there are consequences when you violate the laws of your body, no different than the laws in your community. Okay, and the laws of a company, the laws of the community standards, like laws of Facebook. Keep violating the laws out there, guess what? You're going to be stopped at every given moment. So why would you violate a law? Now, if there are unjust laws out there, they're made by unjust people, well, then the system and people will then counter it. Okay, when they start rounding people up and putting them on trains and giving them to the concentration camps, guess what? People fight against it. That's what happened in World War II. Hitler was doing that, or somebody was doing that. So that's why we got involved. But see, there's other stories that people say, oh no, it's something different. I'm not going to get into the politics, but let's pretend that that's actually what happened, okay? That people were creating laws to genocide another type of people. Discrimination, racism, genocide, all that. Well, there are people that will say, hey, no, we don't like this. The whole thing with anti-abortion, they don't like people aborting babies. However, when it comes to when we don't make laws where we stop it, because then it comes down to a person's choice, what they do with their body. But remember, we can't legislate morals. Okay, that's why the whole making a law against abortion doesn't make sense, because you can't make a law you can't legislate morals. No different than you can stop someone from taking alcohol because you know it's bad for them. No different than you can stop someone from doing illicit drugs because you know it's bad for them. Okay, you can't legislate morals. And the whole thing with prohibition is the exact same thing with abortion. You're not, if someone wants to get a baby aborted, you can't stop it. So now you have to find a way to make it a safe way, a safe choice for someone if they choose to do that. See, it's a happy medium. Okay, it's a happy medium. So so laws will get created, and then the system and the people innately will then support or fight against specific laws. But then you have to look at who's in imminent danger. Then you have to look at what's justifiable. Are you in imminent danger? Is there imminent danger? Can you prove imminent danger? Okay, so maybe, with these immigrants that are coming from the South, and yeah, some of them are probably really unsavory, MS-13, and there's probably some very innocent people that want to just be free. But how does a world know? How does a government know? So that's why we have laws in place that if you want to emigrate to America, you have to go through the proper channels. I'm not defending Trump. I'm not being political. I'm just looking at from a law point of view. Is it unjust to stop someone from being free? Well, you have to prove intention. Everybody has to prove intention. And if you are truly that extraordinary to where you deserve to have a place in America, you will find a way to get here. And sometimes, it's like, how do you choose out of when you're hiring somebody and you have 5 people and they all have great resumes, which one is going to be the one that you're going to choose? They all have equally great resumes. They all came from great colleges, all the same GPA, the same skills, basically. So who is going to then rise to the top? Someone that wants it more. So that's the same thing with J-Juice. Who's going to get the effects of J-Juice, the benefits of J-Juice? And someone wants it more. Not everybody wants the benefits of J-Juice. They say they pay lip service to it, but no, their world doesn't really reflect what they truly want. So that's why the law comes in. So we can then, if there is something that isn't correct, it's not left up to somebody's opinion whether it's correct or not. That's called vigilantism. So the law has to then come into play to then go through due process. Though in the court of public opinion, people do tend to get skewered before they actually are, go through the whole due process. But eventually, they get vindicated or they get condemned. I mean, yeah, I was skewered and condemned before actually I went through the due process, but the OAG made me go through due process. They made me go and substantiate. Well, they found nothing wrong or right about my stuff because they're not going to substantiate or not substantiate. They're just going to leave it alone and say, hey, she explained her thought process. She got the testing from the facility that this is a probiotic, not an antibiotic. So what can we do? Absolutely nothing. But she can't advertise in this way and make kind of claims because you can't guarantee to anybody what the benefits of J-Juice. Yeah, I've mentioned regrowing limbs and organs and all that. And guess what? My friend Masa sent me an article that they were talking about that if you do some kind of reversal in your DNA, you can regrow limbs and organs and all that. But see, it's left so vague. It's not saying that J-Juice can do it. They're just saying the body has a possibility. But here's the thing. They can't say that they can do it because they haven't figured out this pharmaceutical way of doing it because it probably has side effects. So, so they can say that the body has the ability, but they're not going to say what is going to then elicit that ability. And I can't even say that. So neither could that article say what would be the solution to then regenerate arms and legs. And I already knew this. And I know she said that article because she's saying that, yes, Harvard found that you can if you do a reversal in this DNA, but then what are they going to do in that lab to then claim that they can do this under certain conditions? Okay, so it's still under review or still in the research process, but we already really have a solution, but I can't say it because, again, it's not in controlled circumstances. Now, if they create a drug that could help somebody that has that has a missing arm to be able to regrow it, they wouldn't be able to do it. You know why? Because pain would have to be involved. And if someone doesn't understand the role of pain, they would stop it as soon as it started. So there's nothing that pharmaceuticals or anything they're going to prove in their world they're having the solution to regrow something. But maybe they might take somebody's DNA and regrow the arm in the lab and then reattach it and then do the surgery to then attach it and then let everything fuse together because they know that this is the person's DNA. I could see that happening actually, where they actually take somebody's DNA and go and regrow it and then reattach it under surgery. God. But I mean, why even go there? But that's going to cost a lot of money, and who's going to want to do that, right? It may happen in the future, but why not do it the natural way? Why not just go through the pain? Because what happens is when you do reattach someone's arm, you grow it in a lab and then give them their extremity that was missing for like 20, 30 years. They're still aging. So they went through all of that and then they're going to die in the next, 20 years or so because they're not taking care of their body. So all of that science, all of that stress of like, oh, wow, now I have an arm I can use. It's only going to be able to be used for like 20 or 30 years. If these kids that do that, okay, great. But these kids that are not doing the J juice and they have parents, because remember, they're born from mutations, reproduction comes from mutations, they're going to have a shorter life cycle. Look at every generation. See, this vaccine schedule tells you the shorter life cycle we're going to have. It's not because these vaccines are doing it. Oh, no, this is a reflection of the mutations in humanity. Because guess what? Sicknesses mutate that quickly. Every time you get sick, you withstood a mutation. So all of you that's been sick, you just experienced a mutation. And then, you may have healed superficially, but no, your body adapted to that mutated conditions. It's called the adaptive immune system. You have the innate immune system, which is the blueprint of your body, and you have the adaptive immune system that will adapt to the upset of homeostasis, that event. Okay. And even though you're like, oh yeah, well, I can go back to work now. I can walk, but you're still feeling kind of weak down there, on your leg. Or, you think you healed from that break. You go back to playing soccer. Everything's wonderful. Then 5 years later, you sprain it again. That's what happened to me. I had a sprain in my ankle from when I was 11 years old or 10 that I had this tape that I was totally allergic to. So all this bumps. I'm allergic to adhesive. And so I, was off my ankle for I don't know how long, but they didn't put me in a boot. They put me in tape. And then I played soccer. I did all this. Everything was wonderful. And then guess what? When I played soccer with some friends of mine, I think in 2010, I rolled it and I re-injured it because it was a weakness. So back in the 80s, I had an injury back in the 80s, and it started getting weaker as I got older. So the body will adapt for a certain amount of time from those injuries. It may heal. It may feel like, oh yeah, you're back to number one, and all you did was, just healed with your own body and with your regular lifestyle. But as you get older, you're going to start seeing those injuries, those old sports injuries come to surface, and arthritis sets in and weaknesses set in, and then you don't have the range of motion like you used to, and you start seeing your body fall apart. So why even go there? Why? Just do the J juice and repair the damage 100% so it doesn't come back and bite you in the ass in the future. That's what future triggers are with J juice. Is that you have a weakness from the past, right? And then it comes to surface. But really, that's not the future triggers. Future triggers are the antibodies in your body agglutinating and coming to surface and being proactively dealt with instead of waiting to then trigger and then take you down with some autoimmune disorder. But past issues will get dealt with. Present issues will get dealt with, and future triggers. But yeah, you could think you could forget that you had that sprain, and when you have a weakness in your ankle, you may think it's a future trigger. Then you realize, oh yeah, that one day when I rolled my ankle when I was in Las Vegas. That happened to my husband. He rolled his ankle and we walked, from the truck to a casino in Las Vegas when we were trying to have some, a cool time for his 32-hour reset. And so he had to learn how to drive the truck floating gears because he had a sprained ankle. And then, he had to recover, and he did recover, but I know there's weaknesses in his ankles. Okay. So so it's like, just remember, when you're doing the J juice, you're going to remember all the things that happened to you in the past, present, and then the future is that what you would be facing if you didn't do J juice. So when those ladies on Dr. Phil, those two ladies, well, that one lady that says she got a stroke, no, she had a healing symptom of her cardiovascular system. She probably, or her neurological system, she probably would have died from a stroke in the future. But guess what? She did the J juice. She had that healing symptom. It got repaired and dealt with. Okay? So it wasn't like a stroke per se. It was a healing system that looked like a stroke. But she was so unhealthy that, you know what? It would have been any day for her. But guess what? She didn't die. You know why she didn't die? Because the body healed and it wouldn't let her die. The fact that she's lived to tell about it says the power of this juice, because look how unhealthy she is. Yeah, people are scared. They're not used to feeling pain when they're trying to do some kind of protocol to stop the pain, because that's what people's impressions are when they're doing protocols for sicknesses. They think that when they stop the pain 100%, like right off the bat, it's doing something good. No, it further weakens your body, because you're supposed to feel pain. You're supposed to release the prostaglandin hormone. You're supposed to feel symptoms. Being sick is telling you the body is trying to heal and then adapt to the current conditions. So that's why, it gets kind of weird when I say, well, being sick is bad, but being sick is good. It depends on the state of your body. So last night when I was talking about why people get sick and why it is that I'm not sick, because my husband is sick, it's because I probably got exposed to the same pathogens as soon as he gave me a kiss. And why I'm not going into inflammation is because my body is working that fast and that strategic that it's able to create the antibodies, attack the pathogen, and then I wouldn't even sustain or feel any crazy mutation, because even the slightest mutation that I did endure from that pathogen was completely fixed and reversed without me going into some kind of inflammation where I'm having all this mucus and feeling sickly and lethargic and all of that. No. Okay. So when you're sick, yes, it's the state. When you're sick, it shows the state of your body. When you're sick, when you're feeling hopeless, when you're feeling like life sucks, that is the state of your mutations that you're not taking care of and reversing. So when you finally get to a point where you're doing J juice and you can be around people and around new pathogens, because when someone's sick, it's a new pathogen in that area. Every single season, the viruses and sicknesses mutate, and that's why you have these new vaccine schedules, because these pathogens and these viruses and these sicknesses mutate at a very exponential level. The CDC can't keep up with the amount of mutated viruses that are out there. The vaccine schedule does not reflect truly what is going on out there. Okay, if they did, then, oh my God, it'd be crazy. Okay, so when you actually don't feel hopeless and depressed and sick, and you don't catch all the things around you, it means your body is working at its optimal level. And right now, most of you that are watching me right now, your bodies are not working at the optimal level. What you post on Facebook, it shows exactly the mutations you're sustaining and you're perpetuating and you're keeping around, and you're doing nothing about it. Simply posting how horrible your life is and how life sucks and that you don't want to get up in the morning isn't going to help you. You got to go and change your biochemistry. Getting people to reinforce your mutations is not going to help you. If anything, it's going to then put you more on that death trajectory, because guess what? There's just as many mutated people that are willing to help and reinforce those mutations, because they're just as mutated as you are. So if your crowd is all about, oh, I'm so sorry, and they're like laying all the sympathy, they're not helping you at all. When you're looking for sympathy, you're not looking to change, you're looking to reinforce your mutations. And that's why it's so hard for me to go and talk to people on Facebook, because they don't want to hear somebody say, hey, you know what, go do J juice. They don't want to hear it, because they know that J juice would really change their life, but they get something from complaints and they get a hormonal response. If you really truly want to change, you'll do it. You won't even talk about it. You just do it. And if you do talk about it, it's because you are like so amazed at the benefits that you can't keep it to yourself. See, that's, so it's like, yeah, so you'll know who the serious people are that really want to get well, is they're not the ones. And I've been deleting a lot of people too. I have been. I know some of you are going through some hard times, and I get it, so I don't really to worry too much about you. I know you're listening. I know you're dealing with stuff, and maybe one day there's people that don't even know who the hell I am. I'm a friend on their Facebook. They don't know who the hell I am. They're just doing all this honey and all this turmeric and all this bullshit, and I just like delete them because like they don't even know if I'm gone or not. I mean, I have 4,000 now, 300 friends. I'm not trying, and I have 1,000 something friend requests, but I'm not trying to collect friends. I was, because I was like, wow, you know, all this notoriety a couple of years ago, this is cool. I have 5,000 friends. Now it's like I have probably like 2,500 trolls and 2,500 supporters. But that's okay. You know, maybe those trolls will turn one day. Maybe they won't. That's okay. But they don't make themselves known too much. They do it in other ways, and I'm perfectly fine with that. Okay? I'm perfectly fine with that. So anyways, I'm just really, 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 really happy. I'm really happy because I don't know. I like my life. I like how I feel. I like the control I have over my body. I like the fact that I don't deal with premenstrual dysphoric disorder. I like the fact that my dog is healthy. I like the fact that my husband supports me in a lot of ways, and that we work as a team, and we've been through a lot together. And it's not always like the easiest all the time, but we definitely work through our differences. And, you know, and I tolerate his idiosyncrasies and he tolerates mine. I like the fact that I have a good relationship with my mother. I like the fact that I know my own boundaries. I like the fact that I've created this protocol and a place for all of you to go in case you have questions, to where you're not going to be bullied or victimized by somebody else. I like the fact that I have a system in place that also helps, you know, somebody else pay their bills. Even if I don't pay a whole lot, I have a system in place to where I can pay somebody to help me manage the website, so I can then work on things that I need to work on without getting involved in the day-to-day operations. I like the fact that I have that I do that. I like the fact that I'm legal, that I have an LLC, that I have, you know, that I understand the whole thing with the taxes. I love all, you know, I love learning all this stuff. I like the fact that we have so much information at our disposal that if we want to learn something, all we have to do is just Google it. I like the fact that we have open source information, and Google is probably the best resource you can ever get. I like that fact for that. So you all have an opportunity to really enjoy your life. You really do. It's not about chasing after all of the fame and the fortune and all that, because that's fleeting. Okay? And then you have to sell your soul in a lot of ways. You have to sell your hormones to do that. Okay? And so it's really about the marathon. This is not a sprint. Life right now, when you're on Jelly Juice, is not a marathon. Because when you're doing the J Juice, you're not going to have 100% immediate results. You may see signs of like, wow, healing going on. That's the pain. So when you do J Juice and you're drinking it and you get an immediate headache, embrace it. That is the body saying, this is the priority. It needs to work on your neurological system, your brain, because it's getting the things it needs to get in order. Okay? And then, you know, you will see other things. And so when you see all this pain and inflammation happen, you're bringing to surface the pathogens that you've been harboring in your body, and your body is now finally dealing with it. It's called the prostaglandin hormone being released. It aids in the healing process. Do not be afraid of pain when you're on Jelly Juice. Yes, it sucks to be in pain now that you're not on Jelly Juice, but guess what? You're going to have an endless, I hate my life type of mentality until you die. Is that really how you want to live your life? Is to hate your life until you die? Or do you want to be like hating your life for a minute because you're trying to heal, maybe for the next year or so? It may not even be that. Some of you are so young that you only have a few mutations. You just got to deal with them and then get over the hump, and then finally you're on the other side. I'm 45 years old. 45 years old. I will be 46 in February. Okay? I healed in probably about 3 years. It'll be 3 years in October since I've been doing J Juice. 3 years. And I'm 45 years old. And I had premenstrual dysphoric disorder, and I had a few hormonal imbalances, yes, that translated into other parts of my system. systems. Okay, so some of you that don't have any, maybe you have depression, maybe you have a few skin issues. When you have like eczema and psoriasis, it's hard to say how severe it's going to get during this process. Yeah, it's going to come to surface. If you have skin issues, it's going to come to surface. How do you explain it to people when you're working? Well, you just tell them you're going through a healing process. No different than when you're sick. Take the time off if it gets that bad, and you find ways to just deal with it. Maybe you find a way to cut down your heavy work schedule and live, minimally, so you're not always working, and then you get yourself healed and only work, out of the office instead of being out there in the field. I don't know. But if you know you have skin issues and skin conditions that are going to impact your sales bottom line, yeah, people don't want to work with someone that's scaling and having this, you're wearing long sleeves and you're covering all of your skin issues. But if not, then you start planning out how you're going to support your healing process. So skin issues are the hardest ones to hide. You can stay home, but your skin issues are going to be always out there. If you have a headache, that's easy. You can kind of work through that maybe. It's not going to be apparent. It's not going to, scare a customer off if you're working with the public. So know your conditions, know what could come to surface, and then plan your life accordingly, which means that you got to take an inventory on your issues. What have you dealt with? You have, it's eczema, psoriasis. If you have skin issues, plaque psoriasis, that's going to be tough for people getting over that. Okay. So the skin issues, you will have to figure out how your career is going to reflect that while you're healing. And then if not, if you have other issues, then yeah, you just take it as it comes. You take it as it comes. You're not going to be able to predict from 1 week to the next which level of healing is going to happen. And you may, and see, here's the thing, when you drink the J juice, you may plateau and then you may not feel any kind of any healing symptoms, but you know that you still have issues. Well, then you up the dosages. You may not have to do it every day, but let's say you're taking a gallon in a weekend. Well, hey, up it to 2 gallons in one weekend. That's pretty easy, and try to do it as much as you can in a short amount of time. And just, and if you're doing a daily, a quart a day, which is great, well then, double or triple that on the weekend. Find ways to where you can just kind of push the envelope and then go back to what your usual maintenance is. Okay, so that way you can get to the next level. You can trigger the next level of healing, because healing comes from nutrients. When you plateau, it means that the body is able to utilize those nutrients, but it needs more. You need to give it more until you start seeing the reversal in your aging process. Some of you are like 20 years old, so that's not going to be your issue as far as reversing aging, because you look young. You are young if you're 20 or 25 or 30. So what are you going to be looking for? You're going to look for a reversal in your current symptoms of what brought you into J juice to begin with. You start seeing a happier postings on Facebook. You start posting, I love my life. I love my kids. My kids are difficult. Yes, I'm going to exemplify how it is to be a healthy person and how it is to be a well-balanced parent who understands that my kids are hormonal. They came from mutations. Yes, they have mutations. I will introduce them to this. If they don't like it, that's okay. But there is consequences for their actions. So I'm going to teach them consequences to actions, cause and effect, and be a very good parent. So they understand when they go out in the real world and not be a lawnmower parent or a helicopter parent, that the kid knows that it could stand on its own 2 feet without mommy and daddy or the law babysitting them. Because if kids don't get proper parenting at home, guess who's the parent? The state is the parent. The law enforcement is the parent. Okay? So first, work on yourself, parents, and then the kids will see, and either they will do it or they won't. You can't force them, but at least they understand that if they do something, there are consequences to their actions. That's what I was taught. When I do something, there are consequences. I think once or twice I borrowed money from my parents. I think twice. When I went across to Mississippi and came back, I didn't have any money, enough gas. I was stuck in Wilcox, Arizona, so my mom wired me money, like $200, and I paid her back when I got my new job. Paid her back like $50 a month. And then when I got fired from a job or laid off, I couldn't pay my rent. So my mother sent me a check for my rent, and then I paid her back in my next, So she's like, hey, when you're in dire straits like that, okay. But that didn't happen very often. because my parents weren't a bank. They weren't something like, they were there for emotional support, but they weren't like a bank account. Okay. So, so if you can't get your kids on the J juice, and get yourself well balanced with boundaries, so that way you know how to lay down the law, so your kids have a foundation to work from. And if they decide to do the J juice, now they have this great foundation of boundaries and consequences to their actions, and they'll be a well-balanced child even if they're not doing J juice. And then if they choose to and they start seeing their body break down, they're like, oh yeah, mom did it and she was all emotional and so morose and this and that, da, da, da. And then she did the J juice. Man, she's awesome. She's amazing. She understands. See, kids pick up on this stuff. I picked up on the hormonal balances of my parents. Everybody knows that parents out there have hormonal imbalances. Just watch them when they get mad at you. Okay? So if you notice that your own parents had major hormonal imbalances and they were dealing with whacked out stuff, chances are you are too. So maybe you should get your hormones in check so that way you can be that example for your child. Okay? So yeah, because hormones, my dog understands when from my hormones, my dog reads me all, like my dog pierces my soul with her gaze. When I'm petting her face and her eyes, and we're looking deep into each other's eyes, she's studying me. When I'm petting her when she's sleeping and she looks at me, hey, good morning, Krista. She's looking at me. She's like studying, saying, okay, she's scanning my energy levels, or what Kevin would say, energy, but she's scanning my hormones. She's scanning to see, is she psycho or is she cool? But my dog knows, and she soon as, she feels how, and my dog knows when my husband messes with her, she feels his hormones because he likes to mess with her sometimes, and she gets all, but that's his hormones being a brat. My husband's like a bratty, puppy to Sugar sometimes. He likes to get her all riled up, and I can see her reacting from that. So, but she doesn't, and I don't do that with her. I don't get her to react and stuff like that. So it's like animals and children know imbalances in their parents, and then their life is going to reflect that. So it really, really does behoove parents. If you really want to show an example of a well-balanced human being, you got to be that example. You really do. Or you're going to be like shocked when you see your kid go off the deep end one day because you weren't aware, because you're still stuck in your looping of your hormonal imbalances. Okay? So there's my little 2 cents for the day as far as parenting. And how can Jillian speak about parenting? She doesn't have any kids. Well, I used to be a kid, for one. Number two, I have a dog. Dog's not a child, but the dog is like a child. If anything, the dog's like a child that never leaves you. Okay? Completely dependent. Like I let her, since we don't have a fence line yet to keep her in our yard, I have to go and monitor every single bathroom. So I know when she poops, I know when she pees, because I'm the one that lets her out and does that. I know when she eats, I know when she drinks water, and I know what treats she gets, and I know what her poop looks like out there. She poops twice a day. So I have a child myself, and my child knows that there's consequences, and there's actions and reactions, and sometimes I have to put the smack down and deepen my voice to get her ass to come in because she's all distracted by the bunny rabbits out there. When I deepen my voice, she listens. It's a change in my hormonal levels. Yes, I understand stability and balance. Yes, Krista. Okay, if I were to, and my husband's like a child in a way too. He's a guy not on J juice, a guy that lives by his hormones. So I got to put the smack down on my husband sometimes. He puts the smack down on me too. I'm not like in that sense, but we both balance each other out in a lot of ways. Okay? He's very, very detailed OCD about cleanliness. I like cleanliness, but I don't go into such detail like he does. Okay, that little particle of dust or that little dirt over there is not going to kill anybody, but he has to sweep it up. Okay, fine. You saw that when he did the painting, which I think I probably would have painted over the marks that were when he was doing the sponging, but he's very detailed in his trimming. Me, I would tape everything off and then just slather the paint. That's what I would have done. So we have different ways in which we view life and how we view how we should live. But ultimately, when it comes down to it, we fundamentally have the same goals. And now I'm just trying to have him think more in the future, not living so day by day. But that's like anything. So yeah, so in a lot of ways, I parent myself. I parent a dog. I parent all of you. I mean, God, you are all like my kids. I don't need children. I have like, at least 4,000 and maybe at least maybe 100 of you are interacting with me. Okay, so I don't need to be a parent to understand parenting. And sometimes when kids are out of control, you got to let the law just do it. If you can't control your kid, then the law will. But you can't go and bail your kid out. That's the thing. If you can't control your kid, but the law is going to do that, then you got to allow that kid to go through the system. And then say, okay, this is a consequence to your actions. And I don't even know, when a kid is that out of control, it's a hormonal imbalance. How do you get your kids hormonally balanced? Shit, that's difficult because it's a kid. You can't force anything onto them. So what do? You do the best you can to enforce, actions and consequences. And then sometimes you have to walk away. Sometimes you not walk away from your kid like, okay, but when they're 18, they're out of the house. That's what happened with me, with my parents. They're like, hey, when you're 18, you're out of the house. You got to go fend for yourself. You got to pay rent. You got to go buy your own car. You got to go get a job or go to school. Well, I went to school. I stayed at home for a minute, but I stopped going to school. Well, guess what my mom said? Okay, if you're not going to school, you dropped out of college, because I did drop out of college. I was at like DVC, Diablo Valley College in Contra Costa County, California. And she's like, okay, well, you dropped out of college, found out you weren't going to college. I'm like, yeah, I wasn't. She's like, okay, well, now you got to go get a job. You got to move out. And she put the smack down. She said, hey, these are your actions. These are your consequences. This is what you have to do. And so it forced me to go and figure out my way in the world. It did. And I, was a bagger, a nanny, and then I got in the military and did all this, so it forced me to do all these things. So yeah, when you make everything so easy for your child, they don't learn how to pull themselves up by their own bootstraps. So they don't learn how to do things on their own and discover on their own that they actually can be independent and know how to control their life. See, that's the difference. And that way the law doesn't get involved. I wasn't a criminal at all in my adulthood at all. I was a rebellious child, yes, but as an adult, never got involved with the law. You know why? Because I understood actions and consequences. I didn't get involved with drugs to where I had a drug problem or an alcohol problem. None of that ever came up for me. My only issue was premenstrual dysphoric disorder. And it messed with my relationships. And that's why I started the J Juice, because it was messing with my relationships. And it messed with my job ultimately, because how do you sustain a job on a consistent level when your hormones are so out of whack? So my mom really did me a great service for being who she was. Yeah, she had hormonal imbalances. Every mother does. Every parent does. Because yes, they have issues too. But ultimately, she really understood how to raise a child. And kids need balance. Kids need boundaries. And kids need to know that there are consequences to their actions. If not, they will be a criminal. They will be inviting the law in their world. And then you wonder why you have to bail them out. Well, you didn't give them that training to begin with. You didn't do the smackdown way early on. And now you have an out of control kid that the state has to go and look after. Look at all the jails out there. Look at the kids with criminal records. Okay? Now, there are kids that, when an adult gets into trouble and they realize, oh, wow, and they really want to, and they have good influences around them, they can reform from that, But if you don't have good influences around you, then how can you reform from being a criminal when you weren't taught that at home? So really, it's even who your friends are. And if your friends are not supporting you in your changes, then you need to get new friends. And if you have to be by yourself, be by yourself. Have the internet like I do. I have the internet. I don't do a lot of hanging out with people. Nothing wrong with them. I just don't like to hang out with people all the time. Only in certain instances. But when I have somebody in my space all the time and we're not biochemically aligned, it doesn't work for me. So, when my husband goes off and does the truck stuff, it's great. We have time. He has time to do whatever his stuff. I have time to do my stuff. It's a perfect type of relationship. And now I have my own space. So when he is home, which is great, I love having him home, we have other places to do, to hang out, and I don't have to say, okay, well, I can't do this because my husband's right now in the same room. See, that's what's so great. So anyways, I'll get off that little tangent that I was on. But anyways, you guys, happy Monday. I got to take care of some stuff and do some tax stuff and whatever. But you guys have a good day. Do the J juice. You got nothing to lose. You're already on a death trajectory. So either you want to stay on the death trajectory or you want to live. Either way, it's your choice. All right. And thank you so much for listening. Thanks so much. Go to jillyjuice.com. Just get the book. And, we're still working on the other book, which will probably be out this summer. And, it's going to taste nasty in the beginning, but just choke it down. Strain it if it's easier to strain it. Okay. And then if you have animals, take the solids, put it in the dog's dish, mix it with the food, and then have water available, of course. And then just slam the juice and then get the waterfalls and make sure you plan it accordingly so you're not having to be in your car or going to some errand and then you poop your pants. You don't want that to happen. And be careful when you fart, when you're on J juice right afterwards, because not all farts are trusted. So, you'll learn all this stuff as you go through this. You'll learn it all. Okay? And enjoy your life. And it should reflect on your Facebook how well balanced you are. All right? Talk to you later. Bye.